Well, Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden's getting attention for using a teleprompter before answering a voter's question.
You can hear him ask a member of his staff to move up, which could only be a teleprompter. Take a listen.
What will your administration do to help them give them that chance?
Move it up here. You know, there used to be a basic bargain in this country. Workers shared in the wealth.
So you could hear the pause there as you waited for the prompter to scroll up. You're used to seeing your political leaders be able to do the Q&A off the cuff. So I guess that, you know, the Trump campaign is trying to make the diminished capacity of Joe Biden a campaign issue, but I would just point to all the polls right now in the battleground states, and prompter or no prompter, Biden has a lead in all the significant states and nationally. So
I think it just makes the debates even more
critical.
Compelling.
And the timing of the debates, because I want that first debate, you know, they're voting now in North Carolina, and I think it's a disservice to voters in North Carolina, because we really don't know if Joe Biden's there or not, and so you should have that prior to the first votes being cast.
For 3.5 years, almost 4 years, the president's record has been unprecedented, delivering for the American people.
This thing's over. Joe Biden is a disaster. And nobody's even listening to anything he's saying. And the whole time the split screen is killing Biden. Because he's got his mouth open, he looks confused, doesn't know where he is. This thing is over. He looks like he's barely surviving. I don't mean the debate, I mean life.
You guys know for a fact that what they told and said about me are flat lies. I'm telling you, I can hardly wait to debate him. I want to debate him about corruption. I'm the guy that shut Putin down. No one thought could happen.
Well, today, the greatest president in American history, well, he doesn't even know how many states there are in his own country.
That's why we were defeated in 2018 when they tried to do it. We went to 54 states.
54 states? If you ever need to double check just how many states you have, Joe, look at one of the flags behind you and count the stars. You'll only get to 50.
What's this thing called? You know, teleprompter. Barack always kids and he says, Joe Biden, he said, I'm learning to speak without a teleprompter. Joe's learning to speak with one.
The president said, the president, I am learning to speak without a teleprompter. Joe's learning to speak with one. But if you looked at my speechwriters, you know why.
Creep.
More people die from extreme heat than floods, hurricanes, and tornadoes combined. Say that again. Combined. Combined. Say that again. Combined. 4 more years. Pause. 4 more years. 4 more years. 4 more years.
No, Joe, you don't read out the instructions.
Joe's learning to speak with one. Pause. Repeat the line. Women are not without electoral and/or political, or maybe precise, not and/or, or political power. Anyway, the best way to get something done, if it holds near and dear to you that you like to be able to, anyway. Joe's learning to speak with one. And Joan Shingang, I'm going to pronounce it, Shanga, $159 billion left. Here's what drives the driver in the states that are affected. Here's what you can do, the driver. Joe's learning to speak with one.
Because he's got his mouth open, he looks confused, doesn't know where he is.
Happy 4th of July, everyone. Happy Independence Day. The President of the United States, the extraordinary President of the United United States, Joe Biden.
Ho, ho, ho!
A 10-year-old girl was a rape victim in Ohio. 10 years old. And she was forced to have to travel out of the state to Indiana to seek to terminate the presidency and maybe save her life. That's last part is my judgment. 10 years old. 10 years old. You're 11 years old. Talk to me before we leave, okay? May God bless you all. May God help preserve our democracy. Thank you. May God protect our troops.
Run.
What makes you so confident you should be the president?
Why are you the best Democrat to beat Trump? What advice would you grant him as president?
First of all, I want to say we understand the concerns. We get it. The president did not have a great night. The president had a cold. He had a hoarse voice. You all heard it. It was a bad night.
Shut up, skank.
It is not uncommon for incumbents to have a bad night. Just to take a step back. It was a bad night. We understand that it was a bad night. And the president has spoken to this. And he understands that.
If this is an episode or is this is a condition, which one is it?
Well, what I can tell you is that he had a cold and a bad night. I would not see this as an episode. I would see this as what it was and what we believe it to be, which is it was a bad night. And he did, on top of that, he had a cold. In this instance, it was a bad night.
Is he disabled?
No, and let me finish with your colleague, please. And I know, but shouting out, come on, you know better. It was a 90-minute debate. It was a bad night. That's what we believe it to be. That is the reality of what happened that night. He had a bad night. He did. And we are admitting that, owning up to that. You heard the president speak to that. And we understand. We're not taking away from what you all saw or what the American people saw. We understand.
Trump won on abortion in the debate. Trump comes out of the January 6th stuff looking fine. Joe Biden looks worse on democracy after that. He looks worse on criminality after that. He looks like the radical on abortion out of that. Joe Biden looks utterly unprepared. He can't score any points, even on the easiest possible topics. This is an unmitigated disaster, and they have to pull him as a candidate.
How can or should any of these people or any of these institutions ever be trusted on any subject?
As you note, hours before last week's debate, you had many members in corporate media claiming that stories and video evidence of Joe Biden's problems with senility and mental acuity were a conspiracy theory, that they were misinformation and disinformation.
That clip comes just days after the far right used selectively edited video to claim that Biden was wandering off like some dementia patient from other world leaders during the G7.
They aren't telling the truth now. All that's happened is that our media are worried about their ability to drag Joe Biden across the finish line in November. And it's not because they're truth tellers. It's because they seek power and they realize that the task has become too difficult with Joe Biden at the head of the party.
I'm going to beat this man like a drum. I'm telling you, I can hardly wait to debate him.
With the future of President Joe Biden's Democratic ticket in question, he's answering tough questions from ABC's George Stephanopoulos.
You and your team have said you had a bad night. Was this a bad episode or the sign of a more serious condition?
I was exhausted. I didn't listen to my instincts in terms of preparing, and I had a bad night.
Spent 6 days in Camp David. Why wasn't that enough rest time, enough recovery time?
Because I was sick. I was feeling terrible. I just had a really bad cold. Nobody's fault, mine. Nobody's fault but mine. Not my fault, nobody else's fault. Well, I just had a bad night. And so I just had a bad night. I don't know why.
And how quickly did it come to you that you were having that bad night?
Well, it came to me as having a bad night when I realized that even when I was answering a question, even when they turned his mic off, he was still shouting. And I let it distract me.
You're a total dick, man.
But what has all that work over the last 3.5 years cost you physically, mentally, emotionally?
Well, I just think it cost me a really bad night.
Mr. President, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
I
much.
appreciate
It's great to have
it.
you.
Thank you, thank you,
Thank you. Don't go anywhere. It's a very exciting day around here. We'll have reaction.
But I'm still in good shape.
Are you more frail?
No.
I know you spoke with your doctor after the debate. What did he say?
He said you're exhausted.
Now the Democrats have to decide. Are they happy to lose? Are they willing to lose? Because this is a guaranteed loss.
This is their idea of Christmas. I gotta be there for New Year's.